Alright my friends, welcome back to Dirt Obsession. Crack those fingers and get ready to blast off in the comments section about how good your wheeler is and how everything else on the market is a complete and utterly terrible waste of time. Because this video is pitting the North American ATV brands against the long-standing Japanese models. Japanese ATV manufacturers are the OGs of the ATV because they got us started in the mass production four-wheel ATV market when Suzuki released the LT125 in 1982. In those days, performance in ATVs was reserved for two-stroke three-wheelers, and while racing and recreation increased in popularity, so did the public outcry about the dangers of three wheels. Long story short, a consent decree in 1988 led all the leading manufacturers to digress to a four-wheeled platform. But out of the government's overreaching grip came some absolute legends like the TRX 250R and the Banshee. Yamaha Banshee! But we've already covered history and innovations in another video, so check that one out for a walk down memory lane, and we'll fast forward to the present market. Despite where they've been and who the leader was at one point, the current ATV market is just a shadow of what it once was in some ways. While in others, performance and capabilities of the present-day machine has outgrown any expectations the 1980s could have had. Displacement numbers aside, there's a few brands that still remain at the top of the hill and continue to update their ATV lineups, while other manufacturers remain content to repackage the same old thing year after year in hopes that new colors and stickers will convince you it's better to buy the newest model versus saving some dough on last year's leftover. To truly do this comparison justice, we'll have to consider a number of factors, including sales, breadth of lineup, cost, and reliability. First up is Polaris, and regardless of your personal preference, there's no denying that the Sportsman is and has been the #1 selling ATV lineup for a while now. The Sportsman comes in a wide variety of sizes, with displacements marketed at 450, 570, 850, and 1000 cc's. Add to that the wide array of packages and options, and the entire Sportsman lineup is pretty customizable to whatever you want out of, or more accurately bolted onto, your machine. The dealer network is huge for Polaris, which directly contributes to their high sales figures, and in turn the high sales volume means Polaris has more wiggle room to offer factory incentives, making their prices competitive or downright cheap across their lineup regardless of MSRP. You'll hear a lot of negativity about the reliability of Polaris in the Sportsman line, and some of that is fair. They get a lot of recalls due to what I would call pretty poor quality control. But consider this, there are more Sportsmans around than any other machine, so horror stories are disproportionately more plentiful. You also tend to hear less about the Sportsmans that haven't had any issues. But if you pay attention to the comment sections of the major media sources like ATV On Demand and Dirt Tracks TV, you'll see plenty of positivity as well. In our experience, we've had a Sportsman 500 in the family for 17 years that has been extremely reliable, and also a Sportsman XP 1000 for over 2 years that had some factory failures early on. So plan for the worst and hope for the best, but Polaris does have plenty of happy customers. In addition to the Sportsman line, Polaris also has two scramblers in the standard 48.5-inch width with the 850cc displacement and the 55-inch wide XP 1000S. The decision to drop the 48.5-inch wide Scrambler XP 1000 was a little peculiar. It meant that Polaris was essentially abandoning the standard width 4x4 race machine that directly competed with CanAm's Renegade in 4x4 cross-country race series like GNCC. The 55-inch wide platform is uniquely capable and extremely fun. So while it's odd on one hand, this is what Polaris has done consistently for the last 30 years. And that's pushed the industry forward through innovation.
I mean, there's a lot of different things that Polaris has done that has really changed the ATV industry. And then to have them copy that, that's huge.
1 million in 15 years is a lot of ATVs.
Number 2 in ATV sales is Honda, and if I had to guess, I'd say they're a close second. Honda's ATV strategy is far different from Polaris. They focus on smaller displacement machines that fall squarely into the mid-size segment. Honda still has a small displacement sport ATV in the TRX 250X, which is capable and more fun than it gets credit for. But their meat and potatoes is in their recreation utility class with the 4-Trax Foreman and Ranchers. Ranchers and Foremans are beloved for the relative simplicity and reliability of their design, and still offer solid axle foot shift options. The Foreman Rubicon is the creme de la creme with EPS and an optional automatic DCT, which means an automatic transmission without a belt. However, most importantly, the premium Rubicon still has the optional foot shift, which is always going to be the best option in shifting a Honda. Oh, by the way, stay tuned to ATV On Demand for a full review of the Rubicon 4x4 with a foot shift. Honda's design, ergonomics, and little details like the compartments, racks, and footwells are arguably the best in the industry, so the price is slightly higher than most of their competition. But I would say Honda owners in general tend to keep their machines longer than owners of other brands, so you're less likely to take a loss on a near-term trade-in. Honda's reliability is definitely renowned, and it should be. They're mini tanks, but it is possible to break them. Just check out my man Hondude, ruler of Hondude Nation, and you'll see that no ATV can withstand any and all abuse. In all seriousness, any machine can break, but the number of 20 to 30, even 40-year-old Hondas still kicking around certainly adds clout to their reliability reputation. Honda also has a Rincon with a 680cc engine, but unfortunately it's the least enticing of the Japanese big bores. It hasn't seen much of an update in about 17 years. The 3-speed transmission is just weird any way you dice it. The Rincon desperately needs to be updated, but market analytics will determine the value of updating the Rincon for Honda, and so far, we've got nothing. So the verdict here is if you need a mid-displacement workhorse that's reasonably fun on trails with design features that won't make you pull your hair out, and you can afford it, Hondas are pretty killer. Now back to the North American ATVs with the number 3 best-selling ATV manufacturer, CanAm. We love all the machines from the Japanese and the North American manufacturers, but CanAm has especially grown on us in recent years. CanAm is an ATV lovers brand with more displacement options and premium packages than any other manufacturer. The absolute best part about CanAm's ATVs is the Rotax engine. The powerful Rotax makes CanAm ATVs punch up out of their class in every displacement size, and as mentioned, they compete across more displacement sizes than any other manufacturer, with the Outlander coming in 450, 570, 650, 850, and 1000cc displacement sizes. The 650cc Outlander competes directly with the Japanese big bores, but it out-horsepowers them across the board. The Yamaha Grizzly and Suzuki's King Quad 750 are a little more nimble and handle better, but the Outlander provides a better value if you're not concerned with power steering. CanAm also has the sportier Renegade in the 570, 850, and 1000cc displacement sizes. The 570 Renegade is another overlooked machine that provides a really nice alternative to a pure sport ATV if you want something sporty that also has 4-wheel drive and a little more ground clearance. Renegades and Outlanders also come in a variety of premium packages with features that no other ATV manufacturer have matched on their XTP, XXC, and XMR lines. In all, CanAm has the most robust lineup of any manufacturer, and their value is often overshadowed by the higher cost of their ultra-premium options. But they do provide some of the best value options in every class, if you're not concerned with the luxuries like power steering or factory-installed bolt-ons. We've found CanAm's reliability to be very good, and most issues we've seen with CanAm's ATVs have been directly related to driveline components, like drive shafts and differentials that were pushing oversized mud tires through extreme conditions. If I had to guess, I'd say CanAm is going to be moving up the ATV sales charts in the years to come, especially as their dealer network continues to expand. Their variety of options with ultra-premium offerings and total dominance of the 4x4 cross-country racing scene makes them extremely appealing to hardcore enthusiasts. Returning to the land of the sun, and fourth in sales is Yamaha, and it's no secret that we love some Yamahas at Dirt Obsession. The Grizzly and Raptor are 2 of my personal favorites. Yamaha's ATV lineup is the best of the Japanese manufacturers in terms of options. You've got 2 offerings for the Kodiak, a 450 in a variety of packages, and a 700 which is smaller and a more tame version of the Grizzly. Then the Grizzly 700, which is a full-size single-cylinder big bore that balances a sweet spot of power and agility for trail ride. Yamaha's single biggest contribution to the ATV life, in my opinion, is their stubborn commitment to the pure sport ATV class with the Raptor 700 and YFZ 450. Keeping this ailing segment alive is earning Yamaha a continued loyal following, especially with younger riders who need ATVs that are more fun than their grandpa's 4x4s. So are Yamahas reliable? Yes, of course they are. Much like Honda, with Yamaha you're paying for a hardened reputation of performance, reliability, a little bit of legacy, and Japanese diligence and quality control. So Yamahas aren't typically going to be the least expensive in their class. But the 686 single-cylinder engine that powers the Grizzly, Kodiak, and the Raptor is one of the most reliable engines ever mounted in an ATV. They'll have their occasional hiccups like anything else, but overall Yamahas are extremely reliable ATVs, and their well-established dealer network makes them pretty readily available. Now we've come to a line of demarcation. There's a wide gap between the top 4 manufacturers and the rest of the Japanese and North American market in terms of lineup size, availability, and of course sales. First off, Suzuki and Kawasaki have some great ATVs with reliability on par with what you would expect from a Japanese manufacturer. Suzuki has 2 adult ATVs in the lineup, the King Quad 500 and 750, and both are solid performing and super reliable. If you're leaning towards a Suzuki because something about the King Quad is particularly appealing to you, go ahead and pull the trigger, in full confidence that you'll have a solid ATV. It's just sad that at one time the ATV innovator that gave us machines like Quadzilla and the LTR 450 has slowly drifted from the ATV market and never participated in side-by-sides. If you want proof that one hand feeds the other in ATVs and side-by-sides, just look at the success of Polaris and CanAm. Their success in side-by-sides contributes to the size of their dealer network and availability of their machines. In my opinion, that's what has helped springboard CanAm's position to number 3 in ATVs and keeps Polaris at the top of the list in total sales. Kawasaki has a similar lineup to Suzuki's by offering the brute force in a 300 and a twin 750cc size. Kawasaki was the first to mount a big twin in an ATV, and the brute force certainly has its share of fans. But the brute force needs an update almost as desperately as Honda's Rincon, although the brute is by far the better of the two. Its last update was power steering, and that was in 2013. I'm not saying they need a full-on redesign to stay relevant, but there's easily room for improvements on the brute that could make it much more polished and competitive. Still, King Quads and brute forces are relatively easy to find, especially at volume dealers, and hopefully Kawasaki's release of the KRX 1000 last year indicates a commitment to the four-wheeled off-road market. I personally believe that Kawasaki is a brute force update and mid-displacement size offering away from being a very solid 5th in ATV sales. Finally, we've come to Arctic Cat, and Arctic Cat has underwent some significant changes in the last 3 years. When Textron bought the company, they flexed hard on the fact that they were a military-industrial company that had deep pockets and tons of resources. None of that has mattered much in terms of their ATV line. Textron ATVs are becoming easier to find at chain stores than they are off-road dealerships, and they appeal most to folks looking for a value-priced tool for hunting or a farm than they do hardcore enthusiasts. Still, they make reasonably priced and readily available entry-level machines. So here's the verdict. In terms of breadth of lineup, North American brands Polaris and CanAm edge out the Japanese manufacturers, which is in part what helps the two titans of off-road stay at the top of the sales charts. More options means machines that appeal to a wider audience. Broader sales number also keeps relative value high. Yes, both manufacturers have $15,000 ATVs. But look at the prices that most directly compete with the rest of the market, and there is value in the North American brands. Japanese machines in general feel more reliable, although that'll depend on who you're asking, but they are benefiting from baby steps in design and in general smaller displacement sizes that put less stress on wearable parts. Dealer network is outstanding for Polaris and all of the Japanese manufacturers, with CanAm closing in quickly. Arctic Cat / Textron has been losing dealers but still gets their machines out there through the Tracker brand in large retail stores. Here's where we see the market going. Honda edges out Yamaha in sales thanks in large part to legacy, brand recognition, and being the default go-to brand for non-enthusiasts for things like work and the farm. But Yamaha continues to make refinements and is strengthening their owner loyalty by single-handedly keeping the sport quad ATV market alive. As Honda's TRX 400s and 450s slowly age out of the used market, Yamaha's YFZ and Raptor, along with their continued refinements to the Kodiak and Grizzlies, could propel them ahead of Honda in overall sales in the next 3 to 5 years. CanAm is charging hard in the ATV game, and considering their wide lineup and expanding dealer network, they could easily edge out Honda or Yamaha for number 2 in sales and significantly eat into Polaris' strong lead. If Kawasaki does in fact add a mid-displacement brute force to their lineup, as they've expressed interest in doing, and potentially update the brute force 750, they could easily slide into a solid top 5. When all things are considered, finding the perfect ATV for you is a personal journey, and there's some completely different and unique offerings, especially when you consider the top manufacturers on the list. What's better between the Japanese and North American ATVs? Well, that all depends on you and your priorities. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. If you need some more specific advice, drop us a comment and we'll be happy to offer some opinions. Remember to hit the subscribe button and let us know what ATV questions you want answered in the next video.